Okay, so here's a wetter riparian type site, ICH VK1. That would have been shortly after harvesting. And this is an example of what mounding looks like. Shortly after it's been done, you can see, if you just do a quick panorama of the site, you can see the thimbleberry is still, it's very well established. You know, lots of times these wetter areas are quite open, so the vegetation's already gotten a hold of things. But I just thought I'd go over where I'd be planting a tree in this kind of situation when I was fertilizing at the time of planting. It's awesome that they did the site prep. First and foremost, there's no way you're going to get trees growing in here if you had them buried in the brush that's already 2 or 3 feet deep. But here's an example of a mound. I'm wanting to get advantage over this vegetation as quickly as possible. I'm wanting to give the seedlings as long as a growing season opportunity is possible. The higher up the seedling is, the drier it is, the warmer the soil, the more oxygen there is for the roots to be able to extend. And of course the mounding also loosens the soil. So there's so many good things that help trees get going and get ahead of the competition in here once and for all. This is where I would be heading. I would be going right for the top. Now this is a nice mound here. Lots of soil on top. Some of them, like this one over here. If I go over here, I'm hitting more of the duff layer that was picked up by the excavator and just flopped over. That's not where I want to be. I'd be getting the planters to dig down a little bit as much as possible until I hear somewhere where I got good solid mineral soil. Hopefully there's been a bit of mixing with the organic matter when it was flipped over. Where I don't want to be, and it's pretty obvious why, there's lots of mineral soil down here, but I don't want to be down on the side of the hole, definitely not at the bottom of the hole. Way too wet. The snow's going to collect in here. Remember, this is an area that's going to get 5, 6, 7, 8 feet of snow. Hard, heavy, compact snow. Every day that these trees have to grow to get ahead of this competition, the better. You don't want it down here. Every advantage is as high as possible, because this is not a place that you have to worry about soils drying out. So the tree should be able to extend its roots and do quite fine. Okay, what I'm standing in right now is a stand that I actually established. This was back in 2000. I remember this site well. Another riparian flat. This one we were fortunate enough when we came in that we were able to mound it before we did the planting. I explained in the previous video why mounding was so important on these riparian type sites. This one was not quite as wet as the other one was, but man, what a result. When we did the mounding, large stock, did it right away after the site prep was done as far as planting was concerned, and then fertilized at the time of planting. One of the most memorable parts of this block was the planters saw these silty mounds that had been created, and they ate them up so quickly. They thought this was just the greatest thing since sliced bread after being on the steep slashy slopes that they were used to. But the mounds are still quite obvious at this particular point in time, but we ended up with a fully stocked stand. Couldn't be happier. Tell you, when you get your silviculture regime right and you fertilize those trees, amazing things can happen. So I'm just going to show you try and show you a few mounds that are still located at the bottoms of the trees, but yeah, definitely still obvious. And so here's one right here. It's really hard to get perspective with a video camera, but you can see how it kind of slopes away there. This tree here as well. Still see the hole from the mound, but yeah, tree definitely put on top. Amazing in these types of cooler, wetter ecosystems how it works. Another one, same thing over here. I can back away to try and get perspective, but yeah, just a very successful regime overall. Extremely brushy riparian sites are some of the most difficult of all to regenerate in the Blue River area. The brush in here, as you can see what I'm standing in, can be extreme. It only takes 2 or 3 years after harvesting before this is what you're looking at. So getting your seedlings off to a very good start right away without any hesitation is absolutely critical if you're going to be successful here without having to spend $1 million a hectare to do it. So the keys again on a spot like this, of course, is going to be your foundation is your microsite. You want high and dry. On these flatter areas, lots of times we can get in and we can mound, which is a really good thing, and put the seedling on the top. That's going to help warm the soils right away in the spring, get the tree out of the snow as quickly as possible to lengthen its growing season, give it warmer soils during the growing season. It also gives it a little bit of a leg up on the brush, and every little bit of a leg up at the beginning counts. But the other key components are large stock as quickly as possible after your harvesting and your site prep, and of course you have to fertilize at the time of planting. Every little bit helps. You can see from the crowns of the size of the crowns of the trees behind me, they are off to a very good start. It's thick crowns pushing the brush away, and they were able to push right through it without any further intervention. On these types of sites, the thing to remember is that your stalking is always going to be clumpy no matter what. There's low spots that are just full of water. You can't expect to regenerate those kind of things, but if you can capture those high and dry microsites that are spread throughout, you can still get extremely good stalking by fertilizing at the time of planting and doing all those other things with a good silviculture regime. So let's go take a look. Okay, now I'm a little deeper into the stand, and you can see now that I'm standing in this willow how tall it is. This is what you would call your extreme silviculture. Now in the past, these would have been considered silviculture slums, because what would have happened is when we were first regenerating these types of sites and didn't have experience with them yet, people would order stock that was far too small, and they would wait around for a couple of years after harvesting before they started planting. Well, by then, and you start stuffing little trees or any trees into the brush that's already 2 or 3 feet deep, thimbleberry, willow, that kind of thing, you don't have a hope. But they obviously got on this very quickly. The stand that I'm in is 20 something years old. It had been in the early 20s, something like that. It would have been early 2000s when it was planted, and it's fall of 2023. So you know, the key is to getting it off. Doesn't appear that any mounding was done here. They just hit the high spots, but a lot of success. Once again, large stock, fertilizing at the time of planting, got the trees through. What happens afterwards doesn't matter, because it'll never catch up to the crop trees. Here's a tree behind me. Just love this thing, but it was put on a really nice high spot. You can just see how it was able to take off and capture the site. Even though I'm standing in willow that's probably 8-9 feet tall, it blew right through it, got ahead of it, and you can see what it is today. Just a beautiful tree. Goes to show you what's possible if you can get on things right away. Okay, now I just want to give everybody maybe an example. Try to do it just to what stalking is going to end up looking like on these types of sites. It's going to be clumpy. I mean, you're only going to be able to do it on the high spots. It's just too wet down below. But man, when the trees are through the brush, the canopy is eventually going to close over time. It is going to be amazing what grows here. Really happy with the trees that they planted and just how they're looking 20 plus years later. Just do a little panorama and try and give you an idea. A little bit of spruce weevil in the stand, but nothing that's really a disaster in any way, shape, or form. Trees that have been hit are growing through it, but you can see how good they look, despite the fact, I mean, this willow is, like I said, 8 or 9 feet tall. The trees are all through it and they're looking awesome. But yeah, it's not a solid stand by any means. Some people would like to see it in rows, but for this site, it is totally captured and looks amazing.